on the issue, the question that we wanted to know is, why did the Torah have to tell us separately about a Tameh, a Tvul Yom, and a Mechusar Kippurim, right? All of those are very similar, right? Somebody who's Tameh is somebody who's actually Tameh and still has some purification to do. And we said that there's a strictness to that because they can transfer their tumah to the next level. We had somebody who is Mechusar Zman, has to wait till later on in the evening. We said that they can't eat truma, so therefore potentially that makes them worse, right? And then we had the Mechusar Kippurim, and we said, well, the Mechusar Kippurim is worse. And we came up with this, we just mentioned it, and as I said, this is where we got to stop, was that the position of this, of the Gemara is that somebody who is Mechusar Kippurim of a Zav, let's say somebody who is a Zav, right? So they have their Tameh. So part of their pure, if a man sees this emission 3 times, so he's Tameh, and he has to wait a week, and then he brings his korbanos as part of his purification process. Before he brings his korbanos, the morning that he brings his korbanos, he is Mechusar Kippurim. He's already tahor already. He's already gone to the mikvah. He's already completed the waiting period, and everything is great. The thing is, he cannot go back to being regular as a tahor person until he brings these korbanos. That's the Mechusar Kippurim is about. The Gemara throws out there, but you know what's strict about him is that Mechusar Kippurim, somebody who is missing those korbanos, has the same status as a Zav still. He's not like lightened up. His tumah isn't reduced in any sort of a way. So therefore, because his tumah is still very severe, that's why we might have thought that's why that might have been a different circumstance. We couldn't learn it from the other cases. So therefore, the Torah writes that one separately. But now we're going to discuss that. This is where the sidetrack for a few lines is. Mechusar Kippurim, Dezav Kezav Dami. Is that true? Right? Is this a universal idea that somebody who is a Zav, if they haven't brought their karbanos at the end, do they have the same status as a Zav? Tanaihi, maybe it's subject to an argument in a Brisa. Detanya, we learned in a Brisa. Back to our paraduma. Sarfa onin umechusar kippurim. If the paraduma was burned, and they collected the ashes, so if they burned it, and an onin was the one who burned it, or somebody who was a mechusar kippurim burned it, kshera, it's still kosher. Still okay for the paraduma. Like I said, the paraduma is going to have some different rules to other korbanos, but okay, the mechusar kippurim is going to be fine. Yosef Habavli says, onein keshera, and onein is indeed kosher, but mechusar kippurim psula, mechusar kippurim is not. So now the issue is, what is it about a mechusar kippurim that makes it so that you could or could not burn the ashes of the paraduma? So my lav b'hakamifiligi. Let's say this is what their point of argument is. Mar savar mechusar kippurim dezav kezav dami, or mar savar lav kezav dami. It all depends on how you look at this mechusar kippurim. Is he completely tameh? He still has his status of being completely tameh. Well, if he has a status of being completely tameh, a tameh person cannot do the service of the paraduma. Right? If he's already begun his purification process and he's not like a Zav, then he could do the service of the paraduma. So therefore, this argument over whether he could do this mechusar kippurim, can do the service or can't do the service, is dependent on how you view what the status of a Zav who's missing his kippurim is or not. So the answer is low. No, not true. The kuliyama kezav dami. Everyone agrees he's just as tummy as he ever was. Right? But the issue is, the argument is a separate issue when it comes to paradum, which is very interesting. The pasuk by the paraduma says, Vehizaha tahor, right? That the tahor kohen is supposed to sprinkle, Miklal shehu tameh. So that means to include that he can even still be tameh. What do we mean? The pasuk says in two places, "V'hizaha tahor ala tameh b'yom hashlishi b'yom hashvi," right? The one who is tahor is going to sprinkle on the 3rd and the 7th day, and it's written extra because another pasuk before it says, "V'lakach ezo v'taval b'mayim ish tahor v'hizah." He's going to take the hyssop branch, and a tahor person shall do the sprinkling. Well, you don't have to say the tahor person twice. So we learn from there that, and this is a big, huge argument between the Tzedukim, and we discussed this issue in Maseches Yuma, that once the Torah writes, you shall be tahor twice, it tells us it's not tahor in the classic sense. Something else is going on here. A tahor person but not a completely tahor person. That's what it's telling us. Because if it was a completely tahor person, it only need to mention it once. From the fact that it says it's tahor, but tahor in the sense that he's not tameh that all the way. Okay? So therefore, it's limed al tvul yom shekasher bepara. So this tells us that somebody who's gone to the mikvah is waiting to come to at nightfall till he's tahor. He is considered tahor enough to do the ashes of the paraduma. In fact, they intentionally used to use somebody who was a tvul yom to sprinkle the ashes of the paraduma, because the tzedukim, who are always in argument with the chachamim, said it says tar, which means that you have to be tar. You can't use a tvul yom. And the chacham said no, it says tar twice, and we have a tradition, and we explain tar shabal peh, and it means that a tvul yom is kosher. So they specifically ruined every paraduma for the tzedukim by using a tvul yom in order to do it. So that was one of the big clashes between the tzedukim and the chachamim, and the chachamim went out of their way. And this you see in Maseches Yoma talks about, right, that they went out of their way and they used a tvul yom to make a point. Now, mar savar tuma dekoa Torah kula, or mar savar tuma dehach parsha. The question is, what kind of tuma are we discussing that is going to be acceptable? Are we talking about only the tvul yom, which is being discussed in this section, or are we saying that if you've already begun your tahara process, i.e. like mechusar kippurim, would also be able to sprinkle? The mechusar kippurim is not quite the same thing as a tvul yom. So that's the argument. The argument is, we know tvul yom is kosher for sprinkling the ashes, but the question that we still don't know is a mechusar kippurim acceptable or not? So therefore, hilkach, onenu tvul yom de metame sheretz de kili also bekal v'chomer mitvul yom de meis. So he says, okay, therefore, an onain, right, which ones are we going to introduce here? So one opinion says, Tuma that is discussing here, right, which is the tvul yom of tumas meis, so that is okay. So therefore, we're going to suggest that a tvul yom, and we're going to switch over to tvul tumas nevela, right, or a tameh sheretz, which are more lenient than tumas meis. So then they're similar. So therefore, those are going to be also bekav v'chomer mitvul yom demeis. Those are also going to be tvul yom circumstances, and those tvul yom for other circumstances other than tvul yom for mace, right? Because we're talking about tumas mace when we're talking about the paraduma, but we're going to say that even a tvul yom for other types of tuma is also acceptable by the paraduma. Aval mechusar kippurim dezav, but if you're missing the kippurim by a zav, de chamir, that's more strict than tumas mace. Right, it's more strict than tumas mace, because why? Because shekain tuma yotza olav migufo. Right, when we were discussing that each of these things are slightly different one from the other, we said that tumas mace is more severe in the sense that it spreads under an ohel, spreads under a tent. Tumas zav does not do that. But we also said that tumas zav is a more stringent looking type of tuma, because a tumas zav comes from the body itself, right? The source of the tuma is that he has his own emission. So therefore, we would say that that's not going to be acceptable. He's not tahor from that yet. He hasn't brought his karbanos from that. So therefore, that's the argument. The argument is whether or not mechusar kippurim could be eligible for a paraduma, but that is something completely different relating to the paraduma is concerned. But as far as mechusar kippurim being tameh like he was originally as a zav, that for sure everyone agrees with, and therefore that's why it makes sense that the Torah has to specifically list separately that the mechusar kippurim, we can't learn from other types of tuma from mechusar kippurim, because mechusar kippurim has its own stringency. Okay, fine. Now let's get back to our work here. We're going to continue on our Mishnah. The next person gets interesting. The next person who cannot serve in the Beis Hamikdash, his korbanos are ruined, is mechusar begadim, somebody who is missing the garments of the Kohen. I should have brought that now. See, I said it today. My mother-in-law came and she showed me, she says, this was some pages from when my father-in-law was in yeshiva, and she said to me this, and my mother said, this is what they're learning right now in Daf Yomi. And I said, no, it's not, because it was Mishkan stuff. And now I realized, Big Dekuna, it is what we're doing right today about Daf Yomi. So I should have brought it. Okay. So my mother was right, as always. It's on the video. You could play it. Make a note of the time. Right. Minolan. So how do I know that somebody's missing the big day kahuna? How do I know that that's not kosher for him to serve and that he ruins the korbanos? Amar Rabbi Yavo, Rabbi Yavo says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Matu ba mishmei de Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. It's brought in the name of Rabbi Shimon Elazar. The Amar Krol Pasuk says, V'chagarta osam avnate, that you shall tie the belt around them. Aaron Uvanov, Aaron and his sons. V'chavashta lehem migbaos, and you're going to put the turban on. V'isa lehem kahuna, and they will become kohanim. L'chukas olam, as a law forever. So that means, what makes them a Kohen? Putting on the garments. Right. If you're not wearing the garments, you are not a Kohen. Okay, so that's what that means. You don't get status, and you have the status of a Zar, and we know a Zar cannot ruin the korbanos.
Right. Okay. It's the mixing Kohen. Correct. And that's how they did it in the second base of Mikdash.
They did it in the Mishkan that way. First base of Mikdash. No, you're talking about Merubah Begad and becoming Kohen Gadol. This is every Kohen. Every Kohen has got special clothes to wear. If he's not wearing his special clothes,
at that point he's not a Kohen.
At that point he's not a Kohen to serve in the base of Mikdash.
They anointed him first. Made him Kohen.
If they're not wearing their big day kahuna, even if they're anointed, they cannot serve in the base of Mikdash. That's what this is telling us, right? You need the clothes on. Bisman shebig dehem alehem kahuna sam alehem. When they are wearing the garments, their kahuna is on them. Ain big dehem alehem. If they're not wearing it, ain kahuna sam alehem, then their kahuna is not upon them. Now, the Hami Nafka, is that the source? As we're going to try to find many different sources for these things. Mehasam Nafka, we learned that from over there to Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa. Minayin l'shasuya yayin shim avad chilel. How do we know that somebody who has drunk wine, that if he serves in the Beis HaMikdash, that he is invalidated? By the way, interesting, right? I don't know, you can get a whole vort, but we are in a sukkah, right? So in sukkahs we have the simchas beis shoeva, where we draw the water, and they would pour the water into the mizbeach, and the wine and the water went down at the same time, right? And the water is symbolized midas chesed of Hashem, and the wine is midas hadin. So it's very interesting. A kohen who comes to the Beis Hamikdash drinking wine cannot serve, and a kohen who does not wash his hands with water cannot serve. So a Kohen has to come to the Beis HaMikdash with Chesed. That's the whole midah of Aaron and the Kohanim, the midah of Chesed, right? If he comes Beis HaMikdash, he's drinking a little wine, you're out. If you come and you didn't wash your hands with water, you're out. You got to make sure that you water, not wine. Anyway, now, how do I know that if he serves, he invalidates? Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, Yayin v'sheichar al teisht, right? Wine and beer, intoxicating beverage, you shall not drink. And by doing so, you will separate between that which is holy and that which is profane, which means that if you do drink, then you have invalidated, right? That's going to profane the offerings. So now, how about if you're not wearing the garments, or you don't wash your hands and feet before service? How do I know that also invalidates? Talmud Lomar, therefore the pasuk says, Chuka ligzera shava. The word chukah is written here, chukas olam, by drinking wine, and then we have a gzera shava by the word chukah, by where it says by somebody wearing the garments, right? It says this is a chukas olam, right? This is going to be an eternal law for the Kohanim, so therefore, ligzera shava. So it's a gzera shava to tell me that just as somebody who drinks wine is invalidated, somebody who's not wearing the garments is invalid, their service is invalidated. So therefore, why do I need to have the pasuk that says Leichalel over there? So imei hasam, if I would have learned it from over there, havamina hani mili avoda dezar chayav aleha misa. I would have thought that we would be talking about only the service parts that a non-Kohen would get misa for, right? Those are the four avodos: zrika, haktorah, nisuch hamayim, and nisuch hayayin. Those are the four. They are the consuming, the final offering sections, the final section of the blood, the zrika, the haktar, the final section of the fats where it gets burnt, the final where you pour the wine down and you pour the water. Those you get chayav misa for if you're a zar. All the other ones are prohibited by a zar. They invalidate the offering, but you're not chayav misa as a non-kohen if you do them, right? And of course, you're mutter by shchita. That's a whole different thing, right? We're getting all the different categories and make sure now we know if you're the zar, this one gets misa, this one's aser, right? Yehuda would say, "What happens to you?" Right? So this I said, "Hang on, you will see," and Yehuda did not see. So somebody passed along to Yehuda that if an azar does only those four avodos, then he gets misa. The other ones, it's a losa, say that he's violated. Aval avodat ein zar chayav aleha misa emalo. I might say, well, since you're comparing it to the ones that the zar is not chayav misa for, so then it wouldn't because shisuya yayin, because the drinking of the wine right, is talking about those services that you're going to get misa for. You can't come and do those services drunk with wine. So therefore, I might have thought that you only invalidate the offering if you do one of those 4 services, kamash malan. So therefore, this comes to tell us that no, that it's that Rabbi Yevo is telling us that Kohen that is not wearing one of the garments, right? He is a non-Kohen. And therefore, he's mechalel all of in any of the avodas. He ruins the korban if he does them at any point.
So he would be chayav misa like then.
Ooh, that's a good question, right? Is he chayav misa like a zar if he does the avoda, if he does zrika?
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah. Let's assume the answer is yes, because we're comparing him to a zar, right? And he would be chayav misa in those circumstances, whereas he would passel it like a zar in the other circumstances. I'm going to guess that's true. Okay. Without actually having seen any sources inside. But it's forced me to guess. Okay. But it makes sense. That makes good sense. Ashkechon mechuser begadim. So fine. I understand where we see that somebody who is not wearing the proper garments, right? So he invalidates all the offerings. Shesuye yayin minolam. But now, drinking the wine, it only told us that by those 4 services. So how do I know that if a Kohen has drunk wine and he does Kabbalah, how do I know that that ruins the service? He's not chayav misa. How do I know it ruins the service? So asya chuka mi mechuser begadim. Now the gzer shava goes the other way, from the mechuser begadim. Since the Kohen who is not wearing the right garments, he invalidates the service. So also the one who drinks the wine, right? So now he also invalidates the service, even if he's not chayav misa. V'hatana, but we learned as follows: ulahavdil bein, to make a distinction, right, between a kodesh and the tahor. Right, so that's what the Brisa says. That's what nullifies the service by somebody who drank wine. Right, so that sounds like that's what nullifies. That's the only thing that nullifies, where he drinks the wine, where he does those services, those end services. Doesn't sound like it's talking about any of the other ones. The answer is that was Makmi Delekum Gezerah Shava. He says, yeah, but that was the Tana brought that before he brought the Gezerah Shava. Now that he brings the Gezerah Shava, he says, okay, now where's the source? In other words, what's the source for somebody who's drank wine to be ruined is not actually the pasuk that it ironically talks about it in itself, right? It's the Gezerah Shava, which tells us that he ruins all by doing any of the services. Now, V'hatana Mechuser Begadim Hu de Kayolef Mishasuya Yayin, but still the Brisa continues on and says, 1 second. It sounds like, if you read the Brisa, it sounds like the Gzerah Shava was being learned the other way. The Gzerah Shava was saying that we were coming from wine to teach me about the garments, not wearing the right garments. So Hachi Kamar. This is how you read the Brisa. This is how the full thing. Shalo nechleku bein mechuser begadim l'shisuya yayin. There's no distinction between, how do we know that there's no distinction between if you're missing the garments and if you drink wine? V'shelo rachutz yadayim v'raglayim, and also no distinction when you wash your hands and feet. Talmud Lomar, that's where chuka l'gzerah shava. That's how it works. It's not learning one from the other, it's just saying they are all now equivalent. So therefore, since by mechuser begadim we know that it invalidates any of the service, so then that's the invalidation of the service. How do you know chayav misa? From the shisuya yayin. Ela lahavdil lomali. So then, if that's the case, I don't need the second section of by the drank wine where it says that it makes it profane. It's irrelevant. I don't need to know that it makes it profane because I have the Gzerah Shava in the end that tells me what profanes what. So lechederav, I need that section, that pasuk according to Rav. Derav lo mokim amora alei miyoma tova lechavrei mishum shichrus. Rav, again, we're nice good yontif sugya. Rav did not appoint an amora, meaning he didn't make public pronouncements and teachings, all during Yom Tov because he was having the chayins. Right? So therefore, inappropriate to teach a halacha when you have something to drink. So therefore, that's what it means in the pasuk that when he has a drink, so then you won't be able to that'll separate the difference between kodesh and chol. Once you're drinking, you shouldn't be in the position of making that answering shilas, right?
It's funny because that's the whole like Purim, right? When we drink.
Purim is exceptional, right? This is even a shot, right? Once you're already a shot in, we stay away from pronouncing the important stuff. Right? So that's good. All right, that's wrapped up nicely. A kasi, but still not so wrapped up because mehacha nafka, me'osam nafka. You know, I'll show you where the Kohanim are. They need to wear their garments, and it's not from those psukim and the Gzerah Shava that you just learned, from a different source. V'nasnu b'nei Aaron hakohen bekihuno, right? This pasuk, right? Where's it quoted? This pasuk is from. This is Vayikra Parak Aleph pasuk Zayin. V'nasnu b'nei Aaron hakohen eish al mizbeach, right? They're supposed to put fire onto the mizbeach, and the word kohen is extra. Right, Bnei Aaron HaKohen. Why does it have to say Aaron Bnei Aaron HaKohen? Just made Bnei Aaron. So the answer is Bekihuno. They have to be in their Kohen status when they are doing this service. Right? Li made al Kohen Godol Shalovash Bigdei Kohen Hedyot Ve'avad Avoda Sopsula. So this tells us that if you are a Kohen Godol and you put on the garments of the regular Kohen, your avodas pasul. Right? You might think, oh, I'm wearing Kohen garments, so I'm okay. No, if you are Kohen Godol, you're pasul. Well, if that was my source, that I might have thought that only applies to the services that are required for a kapara, like for example zrika, right, where we have to do zrika in order to get a kapara. Avoda de lo me'akva kapara lo, but not the other services. Like for example, the what do you call it? Lighting the fire on the mizbeach, right? Or burning the chalavim, burning the fats. So therefore, this pasuk comes to tell me that I also need to be wearing the proper begadim for that as well. Okay, so that's another place where it says I have to be wearing the proper kohen begadim, but it's for a different part of the service. Okay, that's going to come. That's v'nasnu b'nei Aaron. Right, that pasuk, that those parts of the services where they burning the fats on the mizbeach, even that has to be done with the bigdei kehuna on. Okay, now v'akasi mehacha nafka, but still, I have another place that I learned that from. Right, mehasam nafka, ve'archu bnei Aaron hakohanim es hanisachim, that bnei Aaron hakohanim, they placed the parts, the pieces of the animal onto the mizbeach. So now, why does it say hakohanim? Kihunon. Why is the extra kohanim there? In order to say they have to be with their kahuna, meaning with their garments.
So they wouldn't have to wear it for shechita or halucha. Is that right? Or halucha they would have to wear it.
Yes.
The
shechita they wouldn't necessarily, because a regular, anything a zar could do, I suppose, right. A kohen without his gadim could do. Right? So you get your kohen in street clothes could be doing the shechitas, right? So mikan l'kohen hedyot shalovash bigdei gadol kohen gadol v'avad avodas sapsula. So this shows me that a kohen hedyot, if he puts on the garments of a kohen gadol, that also ruins it. You just say, I'm wearing Kohen garments. No, you're not. Then not wearing your Kohen garments does not work. So, lo. He says, because I would have thought from these other psukim sources that we have that it's bad if you have less garments, right? If you're supposed to be the Kohen Gadol and you put on less, or I'm supposed to be a regular Kohen Hedyot and I forgot the belt. This tells me even if you put on more, it ruins it, right? If I put on extra garments, more and above and beyond, I wear gloves because it's cold outside. So that is going to invalidate my service as well, right? Can't add more things on. Well, that also is going to be two issues, right? There's going to be two potential issues, and that's what we're going to be discussing, and may as well point out, right? There's a difference between having too many garments or too few garments and also a chatzitza. A chatzitza, as we said, separation between you and the service, right? Or separation between the Kohen skin and his garments. Can't have any separations. That's a whole separate issue as well. So the gloves is not so simple that it's because you're wearing extra garments. The gloves could be an issue because then when he touches the korbanos, right? If he wears his left-handed glove or something like Michael Jackson.
Right. But if he wears two pairs of socks, it's like, that's not a chatzitza. Is it?
Huge chatzitza. Remember we said that if he's standing on pots or on kalim, his feet have to be in contact with the floor. Right? So chatzitzas are everywhere.
Only the korban, you said.
That's correct. Every chatzitzas, the floor, chatzitzas between his body and the garments. His chatzitzas between his hands and the korban. That's right. Every chatzitzas are everywhere. Ton of abundance. That's why now we're starting to get the hang of what the Kohen can wear, what he can't wear, what he could put on, what he can't put on. Right. But I suppose a good example, if he can't put on a scarf, right? That's not necessarily going to come in to impede any of his service, or right. That's going to be a problem. Okay, ton of abundance. Hayom merushalin misulakin mishuchim. What happens if his garments are merushalin means they're too long, right? His pants are too long and they're dragging on the floor. suits nowadays, like way high.
Yeah,
with the sock showing.
it's in flood pants.
Yeah.
They call it a capris.
Yeah. I showed my kids a picture of Pee Wee Herman, and they're like, he is so fashionable now, by the way. Like, he was literally a gag, but now he has short, very tight pants, and like, they're like, your friends dress like that.
Tight suit, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Just take a look.
The pinky leaf.
So that's his Merusha, right? So you take a look. You see how he's dressed like a very fashionable yeshiva bacher these days. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, they drag along the garment if they're too short, right? So then that's not good. Mishuchakim if they are worn out, right? So if he does his service in those, so then his avoda is kosher, right? Avodah kshira. Now, lava shnei michnasayim, he puts on 2 pairs of pants. Oh, shnei of natim, or two belts. Chaser achas, yeser achas. He's missing one of the big day kahuna, or he adds on another one of the big day, he adds on something else to the big day kahuna. O shaisolo yeritia, al makas besara, or he has a band-aid on, some kind of a bandage on his skin even. Tachas big dough, and it's underneath the garments. O shahayu mitush tashin, or they were dirty, smudged with dirt. So o mekurin, or if they're torn, the avad avodas psula, then his service is invalid. That's going to invalidate the garments. Okay, now let's talk about it. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Okay, Rav Yehuda said name of Shmuel. Merushalin ksherin, mesulakin psulin. Okay, merushalin, if they're too long, right, that's kosher. But if they're too short, they're puzzle.
So the yeshiva bachers would be puzzled. They're just...
So, but here's now. Well, wait till we get to the end of this, because it gets a little confusing. Vatanya Brisa said misulakin or kshirim.
Right.
The Brisa says if they're too short, they're kosher. So Amar Rami Bar Chama lo kosher. Rami Bar Chama says 2 different cases. Kan shesilkon al yedei avne kan delesnehu, right? Meikara klal. So he says one is if you pull it up with a belt, right, and that's how you shortened it, then that is okay, right? That's because you have enough garment there. You just pulled it up a little bit when you put the belt on. You pulled the pants up higher up. That's why. And the other is when it's no good. That's when the pants are not sufficient, right? You don't have enough pant there, and so even without the belt, it's too short. That's no good. Okay, that's it. Now keep track of this. This is Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel says this. Okay, Rav says no. Echad zev echad zev psulin. Either way, if you pull the pants up, it's puzzle regardless, right? Even if it's so, the way that Rav is holding is it's the way it looks, not just the fabric of the amount of material itself, right? Once I use a belt to pull it up, if it's not fitting right, that's no good. Okay. So that's important. Rav Huna ikla le'argiza. So Rav Huna went to Argiza. Rama le bar ush bezichna, and when he was staying over someplace, the son of the innkeeper asked him the following question: Miyamar Shmuel merusholin kshirin mesulakim psulin. When Shmuel said that if the pants were too long or kosher, too short or puzzle. Vatanya, but the Brisa says mesulakin kshirin, that if they are too short, they're kosher. So Amar Le Bar Mina Dahi, that you have to say that isn't a contradiction, because Deshanye Rami Bar Chama, as we just explained, he had taught Ela L'Rav Kasha, but according to Rav, that's a problem, right? Rav Huna said this is how you're going to explain, because either way it's possible. V'chig tema my merushalin misulakin al yedei avneit. So if you're going to explain what are mirushalin, what does it mean that pants are too long? It means that they are pulled up, they're shortened by a belt. The avneit migaz agiz, and then they become the right size, right? I'm sorry, then the belt is cutting it off, right? Maybe when the Brisa says, what we're understanding is when the Brisa says that pants that are too long are kosher, what we mean to say is that they're too long, but they're kosher because you use the belt to pull it up.
Right.
And since he holds like by the short pants, right? It doesn't matter if it's short because it's short or it's short because you pulled the belt up. He thinks the belt is really like it's tailoring the clothes, right?
And he feels Rava would be good with that? He feels Rava would be good with that because it would look like it would fit. Because Rav is more about the look.
That's correct. That's Rav. Rav is more about the look. So therefore, when he says Mishulash, but then he says merushalin are kosher, it's because he's pulling the pants up with a belt and wearing them so they look like they fit, despite the fact that they're too long. Ela misulokin kasha, but still the short pants is going to be a problem with him because no matter what, if they're short, he should say they're puzzle, right? That's his thing. Is Rav says either way they're puzzle. How does he understand the brisa to say that they're kosher? So Amar Rabbi Zera, Rav Chadotani. Rav learns it all in one go. It goes like this: Merushalin shesilkon al yedei avnet ksherin. The brisa is read like this: if you've got pants that are too long and you pull them up and you tighten up, then that's kosher, right? But if you have pants that you're wearing too short, whether it's because the pants are too short or because you pulled them up shorter, that would be possible either way according to Rav.
But the Bryce is not written like that.
That is true.
So like,
but Bryces, the nice thing about Bryces is the nice thing about Brysos is that we sort of have a little bit of license to play with the language of them because but the Bryces language is not always, it's always it's oral tradition. It wasn't as precisely recorded and taught as Mishnayos were. So we have a little license to play with. That's how we're doing it. So yes, you're right. Okay. So that's the difference in their different viewpoints. Whereas the other Rabbi Yehuda Mar Shmuel says it's all completely dependent on how long the pants are. Right? It doesn't matter. The belt, pulling it up, pulling it down. The belt is not really so relevant. It's all if it's too short, then if it's too short, then it's too short. No, it's puzzle. Right? It's only the Mishnah saying if it's too short because you pulled up with a belt, then it's okay because the belt is irrelevant. And Rav says, no, the way you're wearing it is relevant. So that's the two different ways of looking at it. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah midifti. Rabbi Yirmiyah from Difti says, Merushalon shelo silkon tanaihi. So now, if you have pants that are too long and you did not shorten them, now that comes to be a machlokas, right? Detanya, we learn a brisa. Al arba konfos kesuscha. The pasuk says about wearing tzitzis that you have to put it on your four corners, right? Velo shalosh. You're not chayiv in tzitzis if your garment only has three corners. Okay, that's why you see the bekishes, they round off one of the corners. Once it has three corners, you have to put tzitzis on because those bekishes, they have it's cut all the way up high. Theoretically, take a look at some of especially the ones that are longer, right? The ones that are longer. You'll see one of the corners is rounded for that reason, right? Oh, eino ella arba velo chamesh. Maybe it means no, a four-corner garment. If you have a five-corner garment, it should be exempt. So the way that we're learning is that a five-corner garment requires tzitzis, right? We don't hold that way, but we'll see. Keshu omer, where the pasuk says, "Asher techaseh," that you are covered with it. Harei balas chamesh amor. So that's a five-corner garment, which means that you have to put tzitzis on your five-corner garment. It's a three-corner garment that you don't have to.
Right.
So how many mikayim arba? So what do you? I mean, if it's five-corner garment requires tzitzis, so what's the four-corner garment? Why does it say only four corners? Arba v'lo shlosh, meaning four corners but not three corners. Uma rois lerabos balas chamesh ulhotzi balashos. Well, you had to exclude the three or the five. Which one did you exclude? You excluded the three and you included the five. Why? Why not do it the other way around? The answer is because a five-corner garment has four corners.
Right.
It has a fifth one also, but it has four corners. A three-corner garment does not have four corners. So therefore, that's why it makes sense to eliminate that one. Okay, that's opinion number one. Tanya Idach, another brisa says, Al arba kanfos kesuscha, you put tzitzis on the four corners of your garment. Arba velo shalos, four-corner garment, not a three-corner garment. Arba velo chamesh, and a four-corner garment, not a five-corner garment, right? So that's it. My lav behakimifagi. So now, what are they arguing about? Demar savar yeser keman de ise dami, Omar savar delay say dummy. So the question is more worse? That's the question. 5 is worse than 4, and therefore 5 doesn't need tzitzis? Or is 5 basically a four-corner garment plus 1? So therefore, if my pants are too long, is that a problem or not? Is it I basically have the right length pants plus an inch? Or is my extra inch ruin the garment? That's the argument. Lo, that's not the argument. Everyone holds the fifth corner is relevant.
Oh, wow.
Right? V'shani hacha, this is different. De Rabbi Rachmana asher techaseh. It's just because the pasuk says that you still need tzitzis on a five-corner garment. That's why. Ve'idach hayash techaseh b'mayavid. So what is the person who we hold like, who says that you don't need tzitzis on a five-corner garment? What does he do with that extra pasuk, with that pasuk? So, he uses it as follows in a brisa. Ureisem oso, You shall see your tzitzis, prat l'chsus laila. That means your pajamas. You don't see at night, so your pajamas do not need tzitzis, right? You don't have if you're wearing a sleep poncho. Oh, eina ela prat l'chsus suma. Or maybe comes to exclude a blind person's. Blind person is putter from tzitzis, maybe. So Kishiomer, when it says asher techoseba, that you are covered with it, hareksus suma, that comes to include a blind person's garment.
So if it was not true, at night, your blanket probably need.
Potentially so, yes. Your blanket might need, right? That would be where it would come.
Is
Yes.
that lavouche? It's not really lavouche.
That's the question.
Maybe a sleeping bag would be considered a lavouche, but like you're putting it over you.
Well, we'll get into when we get to tzitzis and things will come up. We'll see. It's actually
Because a
not,
scarf.
not so simple. Blanket sounds like it might. A scarf definitely, right?
Yeah.
If you've got if your scarf has significant width, right? A lot of scarves are very skinny, but a lot of scarves can if you have a scarf that's 18 inches wide.
Yeah.
I don't know how many centimeters that is for the translation. But you guys know what I'm talking about.
2.5.
My 80s references.
36,
Remember
about
when
40,
Canada had
right,
inches?
It's about 45. It's about 45.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be right.
Doctor Who's white scarf is a problem.
Doctor Who.
Oh wait,
Yes.
see it yet? Well, they were made Doctor Who.
Was it? It's
I'm
not-
sure some of them were Jewish.
Yeah,
the
for
law,
sure.
laws of
Some of them
love
were, sure.
It's the laws of love it. If it's not 3 tefachim, is that what it?
It's not a love it issue, right? It's just that it has to be a significant garment.
right. No,
Right.
but like a regular scarf. That's for.
It's not.
It's not.
Right, like a scarf. I mean, you're talking about it's got to be like this wide, right? There's scarves that are this wide.
There are definitely.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's examine our scarf now.
Yeah.
so now, Harek Susama. So Hanim Makayim Ura Isamoso Prat Luxus Laila. So now on the one hand it says I'm supposed to wear that which is covering me, and then it says also only the ones that I see. So that means that the one that's covering me, that means that a blind person needs tzitzis, and the nighttime does not. Why did you do it that way? Why didn't you say the blind person is exempt and we are obligated to wear tzitzis at night? The answer is because a blind person, his garments are seen by everybody else. Okay? The thing I'm going to exclude is nighttime. Nobody sees at night. And the other one says, well, it says the word asher, and the other one says the word asher, right? It says the extra word asher comes to tell me that it is also going to need a 5-corner garment is also going to need tzitzis, and the other one says the word asher is not to have an explanation from, so therefore a 5-corner garment is out.
Okay, so yeah, I was about to say because otherwise, like pants could qualify as a 6-corner or a 6-corner garment, right? If you put it on the folds, 1, 2 at the bottom.
Yeah, but the thing, the bottoms are loops, right? You really need this is a rounded corner, right?
Right.
So that doesn't count.
Right.
But in the back here, these are square corners,
Right.
right? So this garment theoretically has four corners, right? One,
Right.
1, 2,
Right.
Right.
right? 3, 4, 4 corners. Despite the fact that it has 2 more corners, but these are not corners, right? So potentially this one would, but it doesn't because it doesn't split more than halfway up.
Right.
There's other factors to determine what's a corner, what's not a corner. But
So those tzitzits that are attached, they have to be at least halfway. Halfway. It's interesting because somebody just made a zipper one at NCSY, and they're like, "Is this good? We could zip it all the way closed, and it wouldn't be good because it wouldn't be. It has to be more split halfway." Interesting.
okay, Tana Rabbanon. Okay, good. So that was our tzitzis sidetrack for a moment. Okay, Tana Rabbanon. Our rabbis learned bad, right? That sheyehu shel butz. The Torah says the word bad, which means that they have to be linen. The garments of the Kohen are made out of linen. So bad shiu chadashim. Bad also means that they need to be new. Bad shihu shazurim. Bad also means that they have to be spun, right? Bad shihu chutan kofel shisha. Bad also means that they are a six stranded thread that's spun. Bad shlo yilbashachol imahen. And bad means that they have to be by themselves. They cannot be worn with anything else. So when the regular Kohen's garment says that they're michnasei bad, it means all of these things. Okay? So Amar le Abai of Yosef. So Abai sister of Yosef. Bish lamash yishal butz hakamashmalan butz in midiachrini lo. Okay, fine. Butz, I get it. That means that they have to be linen. Can't be any other material in there. Elabad sheyu chadashim in shechakin lo. What you're telling me that They have to be new, but they can't be old. Vatanya, the brisa that we had at the top of the page, Mishuchakim Ksherim, if they're old, slightly worn out, they're still kosher, as long as they're not ripped. So Amar Lei, so he said to him, L'tamech bad shehu chutan kofel shisha. So we said, what about the rest of this? It also says that they have to be bad, so that the threads have to be six spun by 6 threads. Bad chad v'chad l'chudei mashma. But the word bad sounds like it's by itself, right? Which means that maybe you should explain it that it should be single threads, right? So Ella hachikamar, this is what it means. Begadim shenemra behen bad tzrichim sheyushel butz chadoshim shazurin. Right? Rather, the garments that it says by them that they are bad, means that they have to be linen, that are new, they have to be spun, sheyechutan kafel shisha, the threads have to be 6 spun threads, yesh mehen lemitzvah, yesh mehen lemakev. But in this list, some are required and some are not required, right? It's possible, right? Linen is critical. If they're not made out of linen, it's no good. But if they are starting to get old, so then they're not, right? So the ones... what do you call it? The ones that are for mitzvah, which ones he says are for mitzvah? They have to be nice, right? So those are that they should be new, that they should be, clean. The ones that are la'akev, the ones that are required, that they have to be 6 spun by 6, they have to be made out of linen. Those are the ones that are required. So some of these lists are required, some of them are ideal, best if they are. Okay, so now. First question is, Mimai dahai bad kisnahu. Who told you that the word bad means linen, right? Word bad means linen. So who says so, right? So Amar of Yosef Rabbi Chanina, davar ha'olam min karka bad bevad, means that it's a substance that comes out of the ground individually, right? Wool comes off of a sheep. It's got lots of hair on it, right? Mm-hmm. But this pops out of the ground one stalk at a time. Yeah, Ema Amra. What about wool? Amra miftzol kisna nami. Amra miftzol. He says, well, wool, right? Each hair is its own hair, yeah, but it comes out in tufts, right? The wool is all mixed together. So he says,
the comb. Yeah.
That's right. So he says, okay, but kisna nami miftzol. So but if you've ever seen how they make flat wool by linen. Right? They used to have, by esrogim, those are a lot of Yom Tov things, flax. Remember when esrogim used to come wrapped in flax? So they used to bring in flax and show the kids this is flax, right? Mm-hmm. It's before the linen gets combed, it looks like that. That is from the flax plant, and it's one stick, and then they take it and they beat it, and then the outside cracks open, and inside you have all those fibers. And that's flax, right? So flax is also it's all tangled and whatever. So the answer is al yedei lekusa miftzol. That's because it's after you beat it, right? When it comes out of the ground, it grows singularly. Right. Then when you beat it, it becomes individual fibers. Then it gets all tangled. So, but that's why it's called bad. Ravina Amar Mehacha. The Ravina says, I'll tell you the source. He says, from the pasuk in Yechezkel, it says, Peri pishtim yu al rosham, o michnese pishtim yu al masnehem, that they should have their hats that are made out of linen on their heads, and their pants that are made out of linen on their waists. V'lo yachgeru beyaza. So they're supposed to be, the Torah is telling us that these are the pants the Kohanim are supposed to wear. In Yechezkel, it says they were made out of linen. So therefore, you know what they're made out of. So, okay, so Amar le Ravashi le Ravina. So Ravashi is Ravina, 1 second. Okay, Yechezkel's a long time in the future. So, how do they know from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu until Yechezkel told them, how do they know what they were supposed to be made from? So the answer is Talmech. He says, that's not a question. Look, according to what you're worried about, Had Amar Rav Chisda says, Davar zemi tors Moshe Rabbeinu lo lamadnu midivrei Yechezkel bebusni lamadnu. He says there's other things that are in Sefer Yechezkel that are not written in the Torah precisely. For example, Pasuk says, Kol ben nechar erel leiv ve'erel basar lo yavo el mikdashi. Anybody who is a ben nechar, or non-Jew, right, or somebody who is erel leiv or basar, somebody who's uncircumcised, can't come into the Beis Hamikdash, right? Sorry, ben nechar in Arel Lev is a Kohen Mumar. That's what he says. We explain it as not a non-Jew, but as a Kohen who is a rebellious Kohen, who is not from, right? Non-from can't come in. And Arel Basar is a Kohen who has not had a bris milah. Right. So he can't come in. So Ad Sheba Yechez, so that means, so that seems to be a something Yechezkel told us is all about. So Ad Sheba Yechezkel Minolan, how did they know that that was the halacha before Yechezkel came along and said so? You won't find that written in the Torah anywhere. So Ella Gemara Gemiri Levas Yechezkel Vasam Chelik Akra. The answer is it was always a tradition they had. It was a halacha Moshe Sinai. Then Yechezkel came along and he wrote it down in Sefer Yechezkel, and so we know it from Sefer Yechezkel. But that's where we know it from. But before Yechezkel's time, they just knew it because that was what they had transmitted from father to son from Moshe Rabbeinu. So Hanami, that's the same thing about the linen garment, right? We know it from Yechezkel, but before Yechezkel came, they just knew it, right? Moshe said it had to be linen. Gemara Gemira law. Okay. Now, what is my lo yachgeru beyaza? That last phrase, right? What does this mean when it says lo yachgeru beyaza? So Amar Abaye shelo yachgeru b'makom shemazin. The answer is you're not supposed to tie the belt in the place where the flesh doubles over, right? Where it's sweaty, right? You have a belly, right? And it flops over.
Right.
So you shouldn't tie. You don't tie under the folds, right? So the belly flops over it, right? Tie up a little higher, right? You tie up here over the belly, right? That's where the belt is supposed to be. If you look at good pictures of Kohanim, right? So their belt would be tied here.
I guess that's why the belt raises as you get older.
That's exactly right. So you tie it up here, right? Kidatanya, like we learned in a brisa, Keshem Chogrin, when the Kohanim would put on the belt in Chogrin lo lemata mimasnehan, they didn't tie it below the waist, right, or below the fat of the belly, right? Velo lemala me atzilehan, also not above the belly button, right? That's not where they also from there. Ella keneged atzile yedehin, rather by the elbows. Right, that's where it was. So you put your elbows to the side. This is where they would tie in the belt, cross by the elbows, right by the waist, where the waist is. Okay, fine. Amar Ravashi. Ravashi says, Amar li Huna bar Nosson. Huna bar Nosson said to me, Zimnacha dehava kamina kame de iz gadar malka. Right. So one time I was by the king of Persia. His name was Izgadar. That was the king of Persia. And Vahava medalile hamainai v'titsaye nihale. And he saw I was wearing my clothes, right? And he came along and he pulled my belt down a little bit and put my belt in the right place, right? Straightened me out. I was looking, but I was going to let the king did it, right? King straightened him out. V'amar li, and he said to me, Mamleches Kohanim v'goy kadosh ksiv b'chu. You guys are called the Mamleches Kohanim and the goy kadosh, right? So you guys have to look right. So let me straighten you out, make you look right.
The only thing I would have a question on is how is Rav's whole thing, shita. But if it's too long, well, you have to wear it in a specific place. You can't wear it.
Oh yeah, but that's fine because the pants, right? So pull the pants up and tuck it under the belt and tie the belt over top of it, right?
Okay.
That's it. Right? You have to pull the pants up.
I just thought, you were just raising.
That's right. Yes. No, because the belt doesn't loop into the pants.
Right.
Right. The belt doesn't loop into the pants. The pants are on, right, and then the belt goes tight over it. Right. Okay. So he says, you guys are the Melechus Kohanim Goy Kodesh. You guys got to look good. Kiyasa kameh da Amemar. So when I got to Amemar, right, and I guess I told him the story. Marli said to me, "Akayim bach vayu melachim umnayich." The pasuk has been fulfilled. That which it says in Yeshayahu that the kings, even kings, are the ones that help serve you. Right. In other words, the king really likes you, and he took a liking and said, "You guys should look good and straighten your clothes out." So so 11. We'll stop here.
Beautiful.
And,
Very much.
nice.
Does anybody want any more? There's a lot of muffins or